If you want a Rice Krispie that tastes like a core memory, then I've got you. Today, we are making copycat Disney Rice Krispie Treats, and this recipe hits you right in the feels. In this video, I'm gonna be sharing a step-by-step process so that you can easily recreate these treats at home. We're gonna talk about the ingredients and how this recipe is different than the one that you can get on the box. And we're also gonna go over a few key troubleshooting tips so that you can avoid the pitfalls that I see a lot of home cooks make that keep your treats from being spectacular. Hey there, and welcome to A Recipe for Fun, where we make every day worth celebrating. In my world, flavor is my North Star. It is the center, the cornerstone of everything that I do, everything that I make, whether I'm making my morning coffee or a fancy dinner for 12, which, truth be told, I don't even really entertain that much because it's a lot of work. I've developed what I call the 6 flavor factors that hit the notes of how to cook intuitively at home. So if you're interested in learning how to become a more intuitive cook, stop following recipes and really get creative in the kitchen, make sure to follow along. Now, the flavor factor we're going to be talking about today is all about the feels. Feels like a warm, nostalgic hug. Really makes you want to just cozy up and tap into nostalgia. Now, these taste exactly like I remember them on Main Street. Disney doesn't even make them in-house anymore. That's right, they don't even make them at the Main Street Confectionery. I worked at Walt Disney World for 2 years. I did work all over property, like every single theme park, every single resort, and even in Golden Oak, the neighborhood at Walt Disney World. One of the places that I definitely beelined it to was the Main Street Confectionery. I was kind of a weirdo, and I literally hung out for a while until I saw some people leaving their shift, and I asked them everything I could about the Rice Krispie recipe that they use. If that was you, thank you for fielding all of my questions, and I'm really sorry if I came off as like creepy and weird. I also pieced this recipe together based on the ingredient label on the back of the giant Mickey Rice Krispie heads that they sadly no longer serve. They use pretty much the recipe here on the box of Rice Krispies, except for a few key ingredients that changed. They used margarine. That's right, not butter. They used margarine. Why? Probably because it's cheaper. I prefer to use butter. To me, the gold standard is Kerrygold. You can see from the color alone, it's a super deep yellow. It has a higher butter fat content, and fat equals flavor. They also added an invert sugar syrup. It keeps the treats soft and gooey for days. If you follow this recipe, you're gonna get some pretty delicious tasting treats, but by day 2 or 3, they're gonna be stale. I came up with a workaround that I think nails the flavor spot on. What ingredient is that, you might ask? White chocolate, specifically white chocolate that contains cocoa butter. This acts as sort of a binding agent that keeps them tender and fresh for days. I've been working on this recipe since 2018. I've tested it using store-brand Rice Krispies, I've tested it using store-brand marshmallows, and I found there is just no substitute for brand name Rice Krispies and Jet Puff marshmallows. I prefer the jumbo marshmallows. And I'm sure there's a little bit of food science behind this, or maybe it's just my own conspiracy theory, but I feel like the little marshmallows, I think that they're covered in more cornstarch. It's a more marshmallow forward flavor when you use the jumbo marshmallows. Maybe it's just my own marshmallow theories, but I'm pretty passionate about the fact that jumbo marshmallows should be used in this recipe. Disney also used to use an imitation vanilla extract because it's cheaper than a good quality vanilla extract. That's what I like to use. Salt kind of acts like the magnifying glass on the flavor. It really just allows the individual tastes in the Krispie to shine. I like a thicker treat, so I really like to use an 8 by 8 inch pan. You can use a sheet pan if you want your Krispies to be thin for cutting out shapes, but if you ask me, a thick Rice Krispie treat is the way to go. In lieu of greasing my pan, I also like to do parchment paper lining because that makes it really easy to take the treats out of the pan. So I just do like a double lining of parchment paper here to really make sure to get all the sides of my pan covered, and these pre-cut squares make life very easy. We can get started weighing and measuring out our ingredients. I know, I do everything by weight, not to be irritating, but because it's super precise. And when you want something to taste a specific way, it's really important that you measure the ingredients and keep things exact as possible. For this recipe, about half a stick of butter will do, 57 grams into the pan. Now, while I'm waiting for my butter to slowly and gently melt, I'm going to go ahead and measure out the rest of my ingredients, which include About 6 cups of Krispies, which by weight will be 175 grams. This recipe has 12 ounces of marshmallows, or 340 grams, and that is exactly the amount that comes in one jumbo bag. If you use mini marshmallows, you're going to need 2 bags because you need one bag that's 10 ounces and then 2 ounces of another bag. So my butter is pretty much melted here. I'm gonna make sure that the temperature is nice and low, and then I'm going to go ahead and dump my marshmallows in. Get every last mallow in there. With your marshmallows in the pan, you're gonna give them a good stir to get them nice and coated with the butter, and then just gently melt them over low heat. Low and slow is the key here. Now you don't need to go too crazy stirring your mixture, but what you do wanna make sure of is that the marshmallow goo on the bottom of the pan isn't staying on the bottom of the pan the entire time that it's slowly melting. Rotate the ingredients in the pan so that everything's being heated evenly. Things take a little while to get started with the melting process, but once everything starts to melt, then things start to happen pretty quickly. So that's another reason why I like to have ingredients pretty much measured out and ready to go. Once your marshmallow mixture is almost all the way melted, then you can go ahead and add your chocolate, your salt, and your vanilla. Stir to incorporate. That looks good, nice and smooth. We're ready for our Krispies. So into the pot go our Krispies. Gentle mix, kind of scooping up from the bottom and pouring that marshmallow fluff on top. You really want to make sure that everything is really well incorporated and that each one of these Krispies is getting the loving marshmallow attention it deserves. It's looking pretty well incorporated, and we are ready to scoop it into our pan. Flip it in here as nice and neat as we can. This is a really professional technique here. Okay, super technical for pressing into the pan. Clean hands are a chef's best tools. Spray your hands with a little bit of non-stick spray and then just super gently ease it in. Coerce your Krispies into the corners. And really, that's as hard as we're gonna press down on these. So we're gonna set these aside to cool, clean up a little bit, and then we are going to cut some out ourselves. I haven't done this before, so we're gonna be doing it the first time together, and then how to go through a few key troubleshooting tips to avoid common pitfalls that I see a lot when making Rice Krispies at home. Because nobody likes a Rice Krispie that is the texture of a brick. One of the biggest mistakes that will lead you to having rock hard Krispie treats is using marshmallows that aren't fresh. Truly, if the expiration date has passed on these marshmallows, they're going to be subpar. If the bag has been open for a while, they're going to be subpar. You really want to use a fresh bag of marshmallows so that they're super fluffy and you get the right consistency when they melt. Another mistake that I see folks make at home is heating the marshmallow mixture too high. It can be enticing to crank up the heat to get things to melt quickly. Keep the temperature low, keep the timing slow, and really just take the time to melt your marshmallows. Mistake number 3 that will lead you to rock hard Krispies is packing your Krispies down in the pan way too firmly. You really want to gently spread them around the pan, like a gentle push, you know, like a loving push from your nagging mother. You don't want to be shoving your will upon the Krispies, you know, just like a gentle nudge. Okay, so we do have some tests here to show you the difference between packing your treats down too hard and just gently pressing them. So you can see in the pan, I've got this side here that's really packed down tight, and then this side that is much less pressed in. Not to mention this one has dog hair on it. Welcome to my world. So you can immediately see a difference in these treats. Truthfully, when I make these at home, I don't even make them in a Mickey Mouse head shape because honestly, I'm impatient. We're gonna do it today. All right, so we're gonna give this a go with cutting out our Mickey heads on a flat sheet of Crispy here. This is a pretty blunt cutter, so it needs a lot of force. I think we're all the way through. Almost. Hey, what about this? Haha. Ah, there you go. a big Mickey head. Then we can kind of take our white chocolate here, spread it on like a little Mickey Mouse Clubhouse hat, and across the top and the sides there, and into the sprinkles. And if all goes to plan, we should have, fingers crossed, let's see. Hey, and then set them to dry. Once your Krispies have cooled completely, lift them out of the pan. Take a sharp knife, and then we're gonna go ahead and cut them to here. And then serve your Krispies. I mean, look at this. Sticky, fresh, delicious. Wow. Now that is way better than I remember. As for storage, just be sure to wrap them with some plastic wrap tightly so that no air can get in, or you can cut them and put them between layers of wax paper in a zip top bag. They will stay fresh for up to 5 days. These ones I made, I think 4 days ago, and you can see that the texture is a lot denser and the marshmallow is not as stringy and gooey. They still taste good though. I am going to wash all of this marshmallow off of me. But thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know if you're gonna make these at home. If you have any questions, need any tips or tricks, let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe to follow along the fun. See you next time. If you're like me and you can't wait, leave yourself a few little Krispies in the pot. It's like a little treat for the chef.